Arsenal have been dominating set pieces since the start of the 2023-24 season. At first, many labelled them as lucky or lacking creativity. However, I believe Arteta has transcended usual football analysis and borrowed strategies from his fellow coaches across the pond, using basketball techniques and tactics to revolutionise set pieces. One of the biggest hints of this comes from a simple WhatsApp group chat, where the Arsenal boss is joined by other coaches from numerous sports. Two names that stand out to me are Mike Dunlap, a coach with 44 years of basketball coaching experience, as well as being the assistant coach for the Milwaukee Bucks during their second franchise championship win in 2021. The other name is George Karl, a man with 38 years NBA coaching experience across 7 different teams, while also being named NBA Coach of the Year in 2013. I believe this shows how much Arteta follows not only lessons from football coaches on how to succeed, but from NBA coaches too. Even Joe Mazzulla, Boston Celtics coach, stated that he and Pep Guardiola had been talking to each other, even quoting that he and Pep had a great relationship and believed his relationship with Pep made each other better. So the idea of cross-sport strategy is definitely not foreign, even with one of the best coaches in football history. So what did Arteta steal? Before we dive into how he revolutionised set pieces with these stolen strategies, we must learn about the man himself. If I was to ask you to describe Arsenal 10 years ago, you probably would have used words like tiki-taka or free-flowing, all words that juxtapose the rhythmic, methodical style Arteta has built. Appointed in 2019, off the back of one of the biggest periods of turmoil in club history, following the recent departure of Unai Emery, a divisive manager within the Arsenal community. Arteta added some well-needed identity to the club. Emery was a great coach, don't get me wrong. One of the best minds of the modern coaching era, but one area he lacked was his understanding of English football culture, and quite frankly, English to begin with.
Good evening.
I mean, but in all seriousness, Arsenal was a unique club. Arsenal had been in charge for 22 years. The only manager to have been in charge longer in the 21st century in Europe's top 5 leagues was Sir Alex Ferguson. Unlike Sir Alex Ferguson, who retired off the back of a league title, Arsenal hadn't lifted that silverware since the invincible season in 04, with fans feeling the need for change. Manchester United, though, despite off the back of the league title, finished a measly 7th, with Moyes being the designated successor for Sir Alex Ferguson. United as a whole have struggled to even come close to where they were under Sir Alex Ferguson. So why am I explaining this? Well, I think it's important to exercise the difficulty of the task that Emery took on. A club that had spent almost a quarter of a century under one management being asked to change overnight. It's a bold task. One at the time I didn't think many, maybe even any manager could achieve. Until Arteta. He was a man who knew what it meant to wear the badge. He donned the colours, played on the same grass, and knew how to connect the fans that were all but broken. A man at the time of the appointment who was considered little more than Pep's waterboy. Now, Arteta had built them from a team that shared Wenger's love for passing through the opposition to an athletic and physically imposing unit. However, this wasn't overnight, and nor is it Arteta's only coaching identity. In the 2022-23 season, Arteta's first title challenge, we saw football reminiscent of his predecessor. But Arteta always had a desire for control, and I think he realised this quick tiki-taka style wasn't completely reliable. He wanted consistent undeniability. I believe Arteta hates the idea of luck. He believes that it's a completely controllable element. One area I think personifies it, and is the main focus of today's video, is set pieces. So how good are Arsenal at set pieces? Well, in the league last season, only one team came close to Arsenal's tally in Everton at 19. And considering they're a team that's always prided themselves in box dominance, it's no surprise. Also with tall, athletic players boasting great aerial abilities in Beto, Braithwaite, Calvert-Lewin, Onana and Doucouré, making it pretty in character, with set-piece goals falling into the more physical and traditional English philosophy associated with the lower teams and leagues. However, Arsenal, boasting an impressive 20 goals from set-pieces, 4 ahead of their title rivals, seem to have revolutionised dead ball scenarios, turning them from a play heavily relying on luck to a consistent and repeatable way of scoring. One goal that perfectly highlights Arsenal's influence from basketball tactics is the Gabriel goal versus Newcastle. Like many of Arsenal's goals, this starts from a set piece. However, the way Arsenal approach set pieces is very different from that of a standard team. First is the setup before the corner kick. Most teams will usually set up a spread line of offensive threats that require the opponents to man mark. However, Arsenal's strategy differs with the majority of players densely grouped up occupying the back post. In this case, the goal scorer is Gabriel. The main goal of the offensive players is to cause chaos. They will aim to flood the front post, and to me, this is for 2 reasons. Firstly, I think Mikel recognises the importance of being ball side of your defender, and how this will increase your ability to win the aerial battle. Secondly, I think there's a heavy emphasis on giving as many chances to score a goal as possible. By being at the front, even if you don't score directly from that effort, you create the opportunity for an attacker at the back post, either via a saved effort or by a flick on. In this moment, what looks like chaos has actually been drilled out many times for the attacking side, with each player aware of where they will be moving and when. Nothing demonstrates this more than Martinelli. He can be seen near the penalty spot, almost stationary. At the time of the kick, as the whole team rushes the front post, he peels off to the back post where the space has been created and the players dragged by that initial movement. Now let's look at the exact frame Gabriel takes the shot. Here we can see Gabriel is almost a free man at the front post, and not only that, but Martinelli has managed to find space at the previously busy back post for any potential flick on that may occur. Now, anyone who watched this game knows that the header from Gabriel crosses the line due to a mix-up between the attack and defence. However, it's unfair to not call this a Gabriel goal. So how does this have anything to do with basketball tactics? Well, there is two main consistent things in Mikel's Arsenal team that are very much direct influences from the American sport. The first one is more widely used, and that is screens. Basketball is a non-contact sport, and even though you can't initiate contact, you can use yourself as an obstruction to limit the pathing of the defensive players. I know for any of you that watch basketball, this may come across as very basic, but it's a necessity I explain this to you before showing you the next clip. Here I have found an ideal screen. In this example, the opposition team is defending the inside, the same as a football team would defend their 6-yard box. Each player blocks all potential passing lanes while the primary defender guards the shot. At this moment, the options look limited. However, one small movement frees up the ball carrier, and that is a screen. As the ball carrier makes a movement to the right, his teammate goes the opposite way to obstruct his marker. This creates a screen so that the open area for the ball carrier frees up for the unguarded shot. Now, how does this correlate to the Gabriel goal? Well, let's review it again, but this time focusing on the other players involved in the Arsenal attacking play. Before this, however, we must explain the biggest difference between using a screen in football compared to basketball. As football is a contact sport, you can use your body in a way more aggressive way. For instance, Havertz. As the ball is kicked, he almost shoves the defending players away from Gabriel, disguising it as a dash to the front post. However, this is actually designed to drag two players away and allow Gabriel's run to be lost by the markers. At this same moment, the two men in the 6-yard box, Saliba and White, position themselves between Gabriel's run and the Newcastle defenders. This way, any of the defenders able to read Gabriel's run can't react without fouling the two Arsenal defenders. Ironically, I started making this video during the off-season, and it seems the Premier League have noticed this too, with them adopting their rules to be harsher on these scenarios. It seems the blocking, or as we have been calling it, screens, are still allowed. Also, it is likely Ben White, Arsenal's resident wind-up, who is usually on the duty of applying pressure to the opposing keeper, will now have to be careful, as any attacker initiating first contact to provoke a reaction from the defender will also be penalised. That means no more grabbing gloves, Ben. However, I am unsure if this was ever legal to begin with. Even with these adjustments to the rules, it's unlikely this will change Arsenal's effectiveness in set pieces, with Arsenal winning the North London derby just this weekend from similar strategies. So for our second example, what better goal to analyse than Gabriel's bullet header this weekend against Spurs? So we can look at how Arsenal have adapted to these regulation shifts. So here we have the setup before the kick. We can already see a big difference. Gabriel is alone, and instead of being at the back post, he is near the penalty spot. The other attacking players are already in position to separate the Spurs defensive players from Gabriel. They have formed a line to screen off the defensive players and stop Vicario from collecting the ball. Vicario, being a keeper known for his lack of authority when it comes to collecting balls in his own box, is also prevented from coming out to collect it. In the next image, at the time that the ball is kicked, you can really see this. The Arsenal screening line has tightened up to the goal line, allowing little space for Vicario and the other defenders, also allowing Gabriel to be in a 1v1 aerial battle with Romero. From there, it's just a case of whether Gabriel can win his duel. And I mean, as Mikel would say,
when I lose a duel, I'm upset.
So let's go through it again, but reviewing the reasons for the differences. Gabriel starts at the penalty spot instead of the back post. To me, this is just tactical and less to do with the rule change. However, the line already being in position instead of coming from the back post is a direct reaction to the changes. I think Mikel understands that any aggressive pushing has a big chance of overturning any possible goal. Other than that, the result is the same. Separation has been created, Gabriel is isolated alone, one-on-one, and the chance of scoring heavily increases. So with all this being said, I've given Arteta a lot of credit, but none of this is achievable without the help of his set-piece coach, Nicolas Jover. Many people will argue he deserves all the credit. However, I know that Arteta highlights key parts of his philosophy he wants to instill in his set pieces to Jova, who I believe then works more on the structure and the game by game changes. Arsenal now clearly sit atop as one of the best set piece teams in Europe, showing that they have no plan to slow down. If this is a video you have liked and would be interested in similar content, please leave a like and subscribe below, and leave any comments if there's any topics you would like me to cover in any future videos.